was by a technology integration specialist at Kennedy Middle School, Karen, who very kindly shared her presentation with me so I can show you all of the things that I saw. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff. I have this posted in a folder which is going to be shared with everybody so you can look at the whole thing. But we're going to take a look at some of it. So our eyes really like, of course, Amy's very excited. So our eyes really like the infographic style. So like if you're looking at blind parents, this is not very friendly, right? You can't really tell what goes with what or how it's working or anything like that. This is a little bit better, okay? It's clear, it's more organized, we can match things up. This is better. We like this. It's easy to understand, it's visually friendly, it's also more engaging than a whole bunch of text or a table. So like, we like things in a visual format more than just a plain text format. It is easier for us to understand as human beings. So when you use infographics, you can use them in a variety of ways. You can use them like the teacher creating them for the students or the students creating them as an assessment. So as a teacher, you could use them just as a tool to convey information to your students. You could use them as a way to explain a process or expectations for a student. Or you can have the students create the infographics and use that as a way to demonstrate their understanding. So you can actually use them in a whole bunch of different ways, which is really nice. So there are Common Core standards, of course, that link up very nicely with this. I don't feel like I need to read through all of them. Just trust me that there are. So a good way to think about like when you're like talking to kids about infographics and what they really are, and they've probably seen lots of them online. But we have like lots of visual ways of looking at things just like everywhere. You know, like stop signs and maps and subway maps and everything. Like that's all visual representation of the information. So we already do a lot of this in school. All right, we make timelines and diagrams and flowcharts and tables and all sorts of things to show information in a visual way. So we're really doing a lot of this. So she talked a little bit about when you're having students create infographics, setting them up, for success in creating them. So you want to ask essentially what is an open-ended question, which we're probably all doing anyway. You do not want to ask them a question that they can just answer with a yes or a no, or solve with one Google search, okay? Because that's not really research, of course. That's just like finding one fact and then they're done. So she called this asking thick questions. So questions that have like a little something to them, where they can't just Google and find the answer with one click, right? So that actually takes a little bit of digging and figuring out, because then you have to organize that information in a particular way. So the example that she used was, do sharks really pose a danger to people? And she kind of took us through what would that look like. That was what the student was trying to figure out. So that is an open-ended question, right? So the question wasn't, how many people a year are killed in shark attacks, right? You Google it, you find the answer, you're done. But the question, do sharks really pose a danger to people? All right, that takes a little more digging around and finding out. So the components to this, as she explained it, is first you have your question, right? So the kids have their assumption question they're trying to find the answer to. They're doing their data gathering, so like the research part. Getting it organized, arranging everything, and then presenting it visually. So it's the same process that we do when you do your research problem with your kids. But rather than then having them a paragraph or make a poster or something like that, there's actually a little bit more synthesis that has to go on when they turn it into this infographic format. They're 5, 6, and 7 school. So they had this really great thing where they scaffolded this infographic use. So they started in 5th grade, and then each year they had another piece of the project. So by the time they got to 7th grade, they were having them create them themselves. So in 5th grade they were using them as a teaching tool, and in 6th grade, they had a project where they were given a question, and then in 7th grade they actually had to create their own question. Yeah, we just looked at that. Okay, so looking at what one would look like. And here we have our adorable shark. So this is the research, right? They conducted research, they've got a bunch of facts, which are not very interesting to look at, and really doesn't let you know if they've learned anything, because they probably just copied and pasted this off of the internet. But then they have to organize their data. Because before, like she stressed that before you let them start playing with like the fun online tools, like make sure they have everything organized of what they're going to do first, or else they're just going to play with the fun online tools, which is the fun part. But making them organize the data and like what they want to place where, and how they're going to represent that. So it was broken down into how many people actually die, what are things that are more dangerous than shark attacks, what are your chances, other interesting facts. So now we have 4 main things to be represented.
And you said that she gave them those prompted questions. I don't think my students will come up with that.
Yeah, so it was, for different grades, and since they had like kind of been scaffolding this from the beginning, then I think that probably helped.
Okay.
But yeah, you kind of have to decide like where are my students, would they be able to come up with their own question, or do I need to kind of guide them into that place? Yeah, so that's going to be next. For image selection, so a lot of kids, she said, have a hard time when they first start doing this with differentiating between an infographic and just like a poster or like a slide presentation, because you know they love to like slap a whole bunch of pictures of colors on things. It's not going to work for an infographic. Right? It's not a poster where we're just like putting a lot of pictures and then putting down your paragraphs of facts. Right? There is a difference. So when you select images, they're usually something like this. You've probably seen these online. Like they're usually pretty stark characters, right? They're not pictures, right? They're just like icons, essentially, is what we're looking at. And then we get into the visual representation. So having them look at their information. How do I represent that in a visual way that conveys that information? All right, this is the synthesis part. This is showing they understand if they can do this. Okay, they understand their information and they know how to translate that into the visual representation. And then a little bit more about designs. You know, you want things that are clear and that allow you to label things clearly and layer things if you need to. You can use color, but you don't want too much color because that just gets in the way. You can use different size fonts, like that who's being attacked, it makes that word pop out a little bit, but you don't want to like play around with, like PowerPoint rules. Like, you know what the kids do. And then the tools to use. All right, so with whatever time you have left, which is probably not a lot of time. So the one I'd like us to take a look at is the first one, the pictochart.com. So of the ones we played around with, that one definitely seemed like the best one, the easiest to use, easiest to set up. So go on pictochart.com. It's blocked.
Oh, never mind.
Shouldn't be.
I used to see them, okay.
It's nice because you can do a Google login, so the kids don't have to make another account. Right? They can just log in with Google and they're done. Everything is free. You can share online or download it as a JPEG. And save it to Google Drive, which is very nice. You have lots of icons, lots of images, like you don't have to go searching, in Google for anything else. It's all just like contained in there, and it's really easy to learn. So definitely the one that I would recommend, like in terms of getting started and playing around with this.
So you said that they don't need to have a username?
No, because they can just log in with Google.
Okay.
So it's not another password you have to remember.
And then they go to free basic templates and stuff
Yes.
like that?
Yep.
So, is it hard to decide like which template would make sense for what kind of project they're doing?
So Karen talked about that a bit, and she said that for different projects, like depending, again on the age of the kids, sometimes she would be like, everyone's using this template.
Or everyone's using this.
Yeah. So like you don't have, 45 minutes plus as they try to pick their template.
I think that would be me. I don't know.
So yeah, so like again, depending on what your students are, guide them as much as you need to. So I played around with this one a little bit. It it seems really easy to use, pretty, kid-friendly, like 6th, 7th, and 8th shouldn't have a problem using it. I think does that sound it? 3:10?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're already almost out of time. But if this seems like something that you think you would use, either like creating tools like for your kids or doing as an assessment like your kid's doing, I'd be happy to help you, like build something or work with the picture chart. And in the folder, which if it is not available to you yet, will be soon, I made a list of resources. So the slideshow presentation, Karen's website, and then some sample rubrics and lessons that she did. So you can take a look at those, and that can help you get some ideas.
If we make that chart, can we save it to our Google Drive?
Yes. Yes,
Very
you
good
can.
question, Christine.
All right.
Thank Where are we going next?
Hey, Dorian.
Yeah, I have it. Yeah, oh, okay, accepted it tonight? Would you have to go to your email and set it back? Okay.
Someone else with that code.
Awesome. Baby steps, we'll have to run going. What's your topic? What's the next one, the other resolutions?
Extension to assist with rating.
Oh dear. I guess not.
Thanks, you're welcome.
That's great.
I love that.
I like,
Just so you know, I just left it running.
so,
Thanks, Ryan.
so I'm very,
Oh, you're welcome.
like that stuff, I wouldn't know how to create those myself.
Okay.
I would have been able to figure out which one makes more sense. I'm not good at
Yeah.
trying to decide. That's why I feel like I would need help, maybe deciding a project that it would be good for me, if I could go through my curriculum with you, and you could figure out, alter one of my projects or one of my assignments to fit one of these, and then if you could help me pick which ones to give the kids and which guiding questions would, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think
Do
that I have the skills, so.
Yeah, I mean, like, and you were doing like Google Slide stuff last year, like there was a couple research projects you did.
Right, so that's, I was thinking, I could,
Yeah.
yeah, like at least some of the slides, or maybe I could have, like, a part of the project be what food is available in what countries readily, like what their main crops are,
Yeah,
and then have the kids use theirs at the end to come to realize why the dishes that those kids represent or presented on made sense.
yeah,
Oh, because I realized that rice is a main staple and blah,
Yeah,
blah,
yeah.
of this country, this country, this country, those all end up having rice in it, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like
that'd
an
be cool.
added part of the project.
Mhm.
I don't know, that's a thought.
Yeah,
That's the only thing
definitely
I
something to
just
look
think
at.
out of the top of my head is thinking. Okay, so now I'm going to, the cat's gonna move, oh, I am going to that.
I should probably know. like, when
M3,
the
is
session
that
is.
Christian's room?
I think so.
Okay. All right, that was really good, thanks.
You're welcome.
Wow.
Hello.
I thought I was late.
I know, I think probably a lot of stuff, 'cause it's not that much time, I'm sure some people are still probably a couple minutes.
Maybe I'm the only one.
There were like 10 people signed up for it, for the second slot, I think. Let's see. 8, there should be 8 people for this slot. Hello. Hello.
Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah, our last session.
You can blame Charlie. She did a great job. She was let us late. We heard this was great though, from people passing by.
Oh, passing down the hallway?
Yeah.
Didn't tell us.
I'm like, wow, that spreads fast. We talk. All right, we'll give people a minute. And then we'll just,
How many of these are going on right now?
5,
4.
I don't know.
I think there's
5. Oh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh.
There we go.
Well, they might be looking at the library.
She said I was.
Yeah, I did. I
What are they, a bunch of seventh graders?
I wasn't paying attention, so. Hey, it's been a long day. I usually go home and crash and I'm like, too much.
We're gonna get sent copies, right? Eventually.
Yes, there's already a Google folder being created, but I don't know if it's been shared to everybody yet. Possibly not, but it will be. Okay, all right, I'm just gonna start talking. Because we only have like 12 minutes or whatever. Okay, so, hello. Hey. So I went to a session at MassQ about creative assessments using infographics. It was from a technology integration specialist, Karen, who is at the Kennedy Middle School. So she's working with a similar age group, so that was really nice. So our brains like infographics. So like if we see information, this is on blind parents. So if we see information presented in this way, this is not very friendly, right? It's hard to find out what's actually going on. It's too much text. It's overwhelming and unattractive. This is a little bit better, right? It's more organized. We can follow along. Yes, come on in. So that's better. But this is even better, right? It's visually appealing. It makes you actually look at it. So like even if you immediately can't, tell what's going on, we want to look at this. Much more so than a table or a huge block of text that's not organized. So as humans, we like infographics. They are appealing to us. So you can use infographics in the classroom 3 different ways, right? You can make them, use them as like teacher created or student created. So as a teacher, you can create infographics as a visual way to convey information to students. We're always talking about differentiated learning. So this could be a really great way to present information you want students to know in a visual way. You can use it to explain a process to students. And you can also have students create them as a way to show understanding, rather than at the end of a unit or a project making a poster or writing a 5-paragraph essay or something like that, a different way to show that they actually understand what's going on. So there are lots of Common Core standards that this links up to. I'm not going to read them, just trust me that they do. Moving on. All right, so we already do this probably a lot in classrooms, right? We make timelines, diagrams, tables, maps, flowcharts. So we do a lot of this visual stuff anyway. So it's just another way of presenting that information. So Karen talked about when you are creating infographics, just as you would with any kind of research, you want to make sure you're asking open-ended questions. You refer to them as thick questions. So to make sure you are giving your students things that they cannot answer by doing a single Google search. Okay? That's not research. That's just, finding one fact, which they can do with a single Google search. So making sure we are either guiding them to questions or presenting them with questions that are open enough that it actually takes some digging to find the answer. So the example that we're looking at is, do sharks really pose a danger to people? So if we asked our students, what is the most dangerous shark? They would Google most dangerous shark, and then that would be it. But if the question is, do sharks really pose a danger to people? All right, that actually takes some digging. They cannot just do one Google search and get a real answer. So they have to actually look around, look at different things. So those are our thick, open-ended questions. So the components to this, leading them towards synthesizing the information. So we have our essential question, which, depending on the age and ability of your students, you might present them with that question. You might guide them toward that question, or they might be working toward that independently. They have their data information gathering phase. Then after that, in order to create an infographic, right, they can't just present the data like that. They then have to organize and arrange that data in order to visually present it. So that's where they have to really show they understand in order to present it in a visual way. Let me sort this. Okay, so here's our questions. How much of a threat are sharks to humans? So your students conduct their research. Now they have a list of facts. Great. Now they might have Googled a whole bunch of stuff and they copied and pasted a whole bunch of stuff. But now, rather than leaving it here, they have to actually show they understand by going a step further. They have to first organize the data, right? Karen talked about how you don't let them go and play with like the fun tools that you use to create infographics until they have all their research and they have organized it and they're ready to actually put it into a visual format. So they have them organize their data, all right? So it's been organized into 4 main points. How many people actually die? What are other things that are more dangerous? Chances of dying by a shark attack, and then other interesting facts, all right? So they've grouped and arranged so they can actually start understanding the information they found. When it comes to image selection, all right, you know how the kids are when they like to make like Google Slides presentations or so on. They like lots of images and like bright colors and stuff you can't read, all that stuff. Infographics are different than creating a poster, right? You're not using pictures, right? You're using icons, right? It should be really clear what everything is, right? So this is not a time for like splashy colors. Everything should be very clear and crisp. And then they have to visually represent their data. So in order to be able to visually represent their data, they have to actually understand their data. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So they have to be able to look at their information, think about what am I trying to get across, how do I represent that visually? So that if somebody took away that writing there, they would still understand what that meant. Right? So that's our synthesizing. A little bit about the design. You want things that are clean and clear. You want to be able to like label things and layer things without getting in the way. You can use color, but you don't want to use too much color. Different font size can help your reader, hone in on the important parts, but you don't want to have, 16 different fonts and so on, because that's annoying. And then using tools that make it easy. So the tool that I'm going to have you look at, if you have your Chromebooks with you, is pictochart.com. She talked about 3 different ones, but the one I'm going to recommend is the very first one, the pictochart.com. First of all, it is free. Students can log in with Google, so they don't have another password to remember. They just click login with Google. You can share online, or you can download your infographic like as a JPEG, and then you can store that in Google Drive. It has lots of icons and images, so they don't need to search in Google. It's all self-contained, and it is really easy to learn. So that's the pictochart.com. So you can just create an account with Google. And then you have different, there's lots of different templates and things like that. Depending, again, on the age and ability of your students, if you're doing this with a class, you might tell them, we are all using this template. All right, so they don't spend, 40 minutes of the 45 minutes class picking their template. Okay. In the folder, which may or may not be shared with you already, I have a resource list. It has Karen's presentation and her website, and it also has some sample lesson plans that she uses infographics for, as well as rubrics. So you can take a look at some of that stuff and see how they should use them, for what projects. She uses them with all grades. They have 5th, 6th, and 7th at Kennedy, and they've done something really nice where they do something with infographics each year, so they kind of scaffold it up. They use them, teacher created in 5th grade, in 6th grade they start making them, in 7th grade they have to create their own thing. So that was kind of nice that it's on the builds. I think this ends at 3:25, so we're pretty much done. But you can use your 1 extra minute to take a look at Pictochart. And if this seems like something that you think you could potentially use and would like to try to create a project, I would love to help you with that. It would be my pleasure. If you have, like a lesson currently where before they were creating a poster or something else, but you think I could translate this into this, and that might be really cool, I would love to help you do that as well. So, a lot of really cool things you can do with it, both in terms of you creating infographics to present information to them, and also them creating it to show actually. The end.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we run to our lesson.
Yep, now you run to your next one.
M3, not running.
Do you know if it goes to like, if someone asks you a question on the card, are you supposed to respond to it? I think actually beginning, if he asked me a question and I never responded. Those were just different questions. He asked if my class was ability, it was a small class with ability. Not really. Sometimes my class is small.
No kidding.
That's weird. Goes right back.
Always.
But I don't know how you like, I don't know how you respond back to email. I never responded to a request at the beginning of the year.
Face around.
A lot of people said that.
You're welcome. Okay.
I'll take them off your hands.
You're welcome.
I already emailed you, I have an idea.
Oh, awesome.
Human geography.
Oh, Lisa just mentioned that she was here last time. She was like, if you would like.
Yes, and then I also emailed you about citing on presentations. Did you get that or did I miss it?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
That doesn't mean.
Yeah, all right, I'll
Did-
resend, because I'm having trouble, I don't remember how you like cite with like pictures and stuff
Oh,
when
okay.
they do projects.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
Or slideshows or whatever.
Yeah, I can
so
totally
that.
like come to your class and
Okay, yeah.
do it
just
over
love
here.
that. All right.
Oh,
I'm ready to get
sounds good.
Thank you.
Am I
Hello.
here? Oh, because they all came here first?
No, there's supposed to be 11 people in the session. I think it's just they're getting at it all different times and that. We'll wait a few minutes. They'll probably trickle in.
Once you get to pass the first one, you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Infographics. Ooh, it's chilly.
It is chilly in here. What else? What have you gone to so far?
I went to, the hyperlink one,
Oh yeah.
and I went to, the Google training one.
Oh, the certification.
Hyperlink one, I'm in there late. Is there any difference between that? So I did this thing, I had this thing I did earlier, they went on Kapara,
Yeah.
and I put a document in there, and it had a link to a program, GeoGebra, are you familiar with GeoGebra?
Uh-huh.
And I had them, toggle back and forth, the program and do stuff, and to the document that I had. I mean, essentially, is that a hyperlink?
Yeah, I mean, a hyperlink is anything where you're able to jump directly from one place to another. Pretty much is a hyperlink. So So like I click on something and it automatically takes me somewhere else. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Not to each other, but also. No.
Hi.
All right.
There's supposed to be 11 people, so we'll just wait like another minute and then we'll just start. And they can trickle in.
A lot of stuff today.
It is.
Writing a pass.
Good, how are you? How's Jim Geary?
I did spend the day with you. I spent all day with you, I had lunch over there. Loving it. Love life.
Infographics.
Infographics. Made it. Yay. All right, we're gonna start and then people can come in as well. All right, ready? It's your last session. We'll just wait. Okay. All right, so one of the sessions I went to at MassQ was on creative assessments using infographics. It was from a technology integration specialist at Kennedy Middle School. So she was talking about, similar age, so that was nice. She was very kind to share her presentation with me, so I'm going to show you some of the stuff. I'm going to skip through some things because she had an hour and we had like 10 minutes. Okay, so our brains really like infographics. So when information is presented like this, it is not very friendly to our brains. It is hard to absorb, it is hard to understand at all. It's just too much text, it is not really helpful. This is a little bit better. It's more organized, okay, our brain can make sense of it, it has tables and charts and so on. Better. But this is much more visually appealing. So even if we don't immediately understand the information, we want to look at it and spend some time figuring it out. Right? So as humans, we like stuff like this. It's helpful, it draws us in, it's a good way of presenting information, makes it easier to understand. So using infographics in the classroom, you can do it in several different ways. You, the teacher, can create them, or you can have your students create them. So if you create them, you can use them as a visual learning tool to help present information. So we're always talking about differentiated learning. This can be a really great way to present information to your more visual students. You can use it to explain a process or show expectations. And when students create them, it is an alternative to demonstrating understanding. So rather than having them create a poster at the end of a project, or writing a 5-paragraph essay, or something like that, having them create an infographic where they have to visually represent the information that they have gathered. This ties in with a lot of the Common Core standards, which we're not going to read, just trust me, it does. Okay, skipping that slide. So when you do this, just like when you do any kind of research with your kids, you want to be addressing open-ended questions. All right, so they're not questions that the kids can answer with a single Google search. Because that's not research, that is just fact-finding, and it doesn't take them very long. And they understandably get frustrated when you tell them you need to use these 6 different sources to answer this question, which they know they can just find with one Google search. So Karen referred to this as thick questions, so they have a little something to them, open-ended questions. So if you are looking at this example down at the bottom, what's the most dangerous shark? They're going to Google that and they're going to find the answer in 5 seconds. But if your question is, do sharks really pose a danger to people? Then that's something that they actually have to look at, probably different places, gather some information, and then come to a conclusion. You can't answer that question fully with a single Google search. With younger students, you might decide that you provide them with that essential question. With older students, you might guide them toward that question, or maybe they're on their own. They have a broad topic and they have to create a open-ended essential question. So that would be, you would decide, what's the level of your students. So in the creating of an infographic, we have a lot of synthesis going on. So they're starting with their essential question, this open-ended question. They have to gather their data, just like they would for any research project. They have to sort and arrange, just like they would if they had to write a 5-paragraph essay. But then, they have to do something extra. They have to really understand their information because they have to figure out, how can I visually present this? So you kind of have like an extra step of synthesis in there in terms of understanding. Skipping that. All right, so working with how much of a threat are sharks to humans? So they conduct research, and they gather their research. And right now, it's just a whole bunch of text, and we have no idea if they've actually understood anything they've written down or not. All right, they could just be copying and pasting for all we know. But then they have to organize. Karen was talking about how you want to make sure, like before you let them go on to the fun tools to create infographics, you make sure they have done their data gathering and organizing before they get to do the fun part. So they have to group and arrange in a way that makes sense. So they have to really look at what they found. So we have grouped this into how many people actually died, what are some of the things that are more dangerous, what are your chances of dying by sharks, and then other interesting facts. All right, so we've done the grouping. Talked a little bit about image selection. We know that like when kids make PowerPoint presentation or Google Slides presentation, they like lots of images and colors and like